Hello and welcome to another Ryan and Ditto video. Today we're going to be reviewing my RPA Draft League Game 1, my prep, the battle, and what I thought of the battle of itself. So let's roll the intro and get into the prep. My opponent week 1 has a really threatening team. Mega Alakazam, King Gambit, Rotom Wash, even an Enamorus, Slitherwing, which can Terra for massive first impressions, Clodsire, which is a really good wall to my team, especially since my offense is hinged on Chi-Yu and Mega Blastoise. Typhlosion Hisuian can prove itself to be a threat versus my Zamazenta. Porygon 2 might prove itself to be a nuisance, and Terra Naclstack is always something you have to prep for in the team builder. The first mon that I picked was Togekiss, with Heavy Duty Boots, Terra Dark, an Aura Sphere, Defog, Thunder Wave, and Air Slash. Since Clodsire was most likely coming, as its special defense offers itself to be quite a threat versus my Chi-Yu, and obviously my Togekiss itself, I decided to run Defog on this mon, as Latias actually needed all of its move slots. Terra Dark Thunder Wave allows me to cripple Mega Alakazam so that it can be pickings for my slower mons. Air Slash, obviously, for general damage. Aura Sphere is there for the King Gambit. Terra Dark also allows me to live an Iron Head from King Gambit, potentially cripple it with Thunder Wave, or just go for damage on Aura Sphere. Its EVs are kinda whack. 96 speed gives me a speed stat of 220, which outspeeds Mega Alakazam after it has been paralyzed. And I threw the rest of it in HP and special attack, and gave it a modest nature to hit harder. My next mon was Latias, which actually fulfilled a really important part of the team. As you can see, my Latias has Reflect type, and Aura Sphere. I think you know where this is going. Basically, versus King Gambit, I am not safe as a Latias. There's 3 moves that King Gambit can click. Knockoff / Kowtow Cleave, Sucker Punch, and Pursuit. Reflect type gets around all 3 of these moves while Protect can Scout, while also offering itself as protection against Slitherwing's first impression, while also giving me leftovers recovery. Aura Sphere is obviously for the King Gambit matchup, and Psyshock is just a good move to hit Clodsire and potentially specially defensive Rotom Wash. I have leftovers on the set, invested just enough speed to outspeed Enamorus just in case he brings it, invested the rest of it in HP to better live hits versus Rotom Wash, and invested the rest in special attack. My next mon was Chi-Yu. I really needed a way to get past his fast offensive core, especially Typhlosion, as it outspeeds Kleavor even when holding a Choice Scarf. I decided to give Scarf Chi-Yu a go. Sure, it might get walled by Clodsire, but the rest of my team should be able to handle that. It has Choice Scarf, obviously, Timid Nature, Overheat, Psychic, Flamethrower, Dark Pulse. Pretty standard Scarf Chi-Yu set, nothing special there. In its EVs, I spent 216 EVs in speed, so that I can outspeed Typhlosion with a speed stat of 319. Threw the rest of it in special attack and some defense to better live King Gambit's Sucker Punch. After that, we have Kleavor, another Choice Scarf user. Yeah, I was that afraid of his Mega Alakazam. Anyway, my Choice Scarf Kleavor gives me something that my team sorely lacks at this point: momentum. U-turn gives me the option to switch, Stone Axe sets up rocks, which could be really useful versus his defensive core, and Close Combat gives me security versus King Gambit, and Psycho Cut majorly hits Slitherwing and Clodsire for super effective damage. 244 speed and a jolly nature to outspeed Mega Alakazam after my Choice Scarf, threw the rest in attack and a little bit of HP. Mamoswine actually looks really good in this game. Ice Shard hits most of his team for neutral damage, crucially hitting Enamorus for super effective damage. Thick Fat allows me to switch into Typhlosion in a pinch, and Earthquake always threatens Clodsire. But he has a Rotom Wash. I still decided to bring it regardless, as this was actually my best switch into Mega Alakazam. With an Assault Vest and 120 special defense EVs paired with my max HP investment, Psychic is a guaranteed 2-hit KO on this Mamoswine. not including rocks, sadly. Do the rest of it in attack, with a careful nature. Earthquake, Ice Shard, Icicle Crash knockoff, pretty standard Mamoswine set, with knockoff being a middle ground move to click versus Mega Alakazam just in case he goes into Rotom Wash. I still get damage on it. Although the Mega Alakazam matchup might be a little bit nuanced. If he Megas on my Thick Fat, Ice Shard's damage is reduced and it becomes a roll on Earthquake. If you might notice, my Mamoswine and Kleavor are specified to be female. That's because I don't want Q-Charm proccing on Enamorus on either of these two mons, if he decides to bring, for example, a Calm Mind Enamorus. My last mon was Zamazenta Crown. What did you expect? Me to bring something else? Zamazenta offers me a defensive offensive utility mon that can switch into any threat in a pinch, and can be able to 1v1 most things bearing Mega Alakazam. With 204 speed, I outspeed Enamorus, while having 252 defense EVs and an impish nature to maximize body press damage, and 52 attack to give me more attacking power, obviously. Dauntless Shield is nerfed, unfortunately, so I have to be really careful while using it, but if I can bring it in the late game where everything's chipped, it can potentially go really ham. Although there is the possibility of him bringing Naclstack and really screwing up the mid game. Behemoth Bash, Body Press, Psychic Fangs Crunch, with Behemoth Bash being a middle move to click versus some mons. Body Press just being a really powerful move off of a stab, 252 defense, impish nature, max defense Zamazenta. Psychic Fangs allows me to hit Slitherwing and Clodsire for super effective damage, and Crunch could be a good move to predict against a Typhlosion switch in case he does bring it. Anyways, with the prep over, let's take a look at how the battle actually played out. On Team Preview, there are a few things to note. First of all, he did not bring Clodsire, Kingambit, and Typhlosion, but he brought Naclstack, so the game objective here is to knock off Naclstack's Eviolite with Mamoswine, as Mamoswine is actually my safest switch-in into Naclstack considering everything else doesn't really threaten it offensively. I also have to knock off Porygon 2's Eviolite if possible. Togekiss will be my main switch-in versus Slitherwing. I need to get Rotom Wash chipped if he is specially defensive, as Togekiss cannot touch Rotom Wash. And he brought Enamorus, so I have to be really careful in the mid game to not let Enamorus set up an agility and have Mamoswine die in the mid game. I decide to lead Kleavor to immediately get off the rocks, but he leads Slitherwing. I fear a first impression, so I immediately go to Togekiss as he doubles to Naclstack, and that's a really nasty predict. At this point, I have to go Mamoswine and try to get a knockoff off. If he goes into Rotom, that is completely fine, as I needed Rotom's item gone anyway, which does happen. Rotom is reviewed to be physically defensive, as that knockoff only did 24%, and he's leftovers. I have to go into Latias at this point. He goes to go for the Hydro, no Volt Switch there, thankfully. And then here, I just click Psyshock. He goes into P2, I click Psyshock, which does 20, and then here I go for Protect, because I don't know what the P2 is doing. Is this going to be a defensive set with like Thunder Wave, or is this going to be an offensive set with like Tri-Attack, Ice Beam? I go for Protect, he goes for the Thunder Wave, so at this point I know I have to go into Mamoswine and claim my free knockoff. But he goes Teleport, really good play, goes into Rotom Wash, and yet again I'm forced to go into Latias. And he reviews Pain Split, so this Rotom Wash is going to be really painful to remove. At this point, I just go for the Psyshock again as he Volt Switches out. Probably into P2 again. He goes Slitherwing, actually. I Protect, that's what Protect is for. Protecting against first impression. And at this point, I have a decision to make. I have a few options that I can do here. I can stay in Psyshock, anticipating him to switch. But since my Latias doesn't have much investment in special attack and instead it's bulk, Psyshock might not actually kill the Slitherwing. And if he U-turns, that's going to be really bad, as Rotom Wash is going to be completely free from now on. As Rotom Wash is at 73%, that's still really healthy. I can Reflect type, as Reflect type is also there for Slitherwing, as Slitherwing resists Slitherwing stabs, actually. But if I reflect type and he U-turns, that's going to be really bad, because he might bring in Enamorus and just claim his free Moonblast versus my team. At the same time, if I switch out here and he U-turns, anticipating himself to live a Psy Shock, that's going to be really bad for me, as he gains more momentum and more chip, as that's a Slitherwing. He goes into P2, as I go for the Psy Shock. It was the most riskless there. And here I spot an opportunity to get the rocks up, but then P2 recovers. Fearing a Thunder Wave, I switch back into Mamoswine. He does go for the T-Wave, which is immune. I double into Cleavor, anticipating Rotom Wash. I go for the U-turn for more Force Chip, go back into Latias as he reviews Will-O-Wisp. And then here, he goes into Porygon 2, as I click Psyshock again. Here I anticipate another recover, and I go into Cleavor yet again. He teleports out actually into Naclstack, and here I decided I needed the rocks, because he was doing a lot of pivoting, and rocks don't really hamper that. Snorlax surprisingly does 39%, suggesting this is a specially defensive Naclstack? I don't know, I'm not too sure. He goes for the Stealth Rocks. I get a pretty nice crit. I wanted to pressure the recovers. That's the first recover. That's the second recover. And then I decide to switch out, fearing a Sulk Cure. There's the Sulk Cure, and then here I go for the knockoff. Rotom Wash is pretty low at this point, so getting any chip on it will be nice, and knocking off the Naclstack's Eviolite really good. He reviews Terra Water. I knock off, which does quite a lot of damage, and he kills my Mamoswine with Body Press. Unfortunately, I had no choice there, because Naclstack was threatening to take a kill or chip my Mon severely anyways. And I did have 2 backup checks to Enamorus. I had 3 backup checks to Enamorus actually, with Zamazenta, Chi-Yu, and Cleavor. So I decided to sack Mamoswine there. Chi-Yu goes for the free Dark Pulse and picks up the KO. He goes into Slitherwing. There's only one move that I can make here. I go into Togekiss. He does not U-turn here for some reason, and he reviews to not be Choice Band, as that only did 16%, while Choice Band would do like 20. He goes into Rotom Wash as I go for Air Slash. Air Slash does surprisingly a lot, so yeah, he is Fizz Def. And then here, do I stay in on a Volt Switch, because the Latias switch is really obvious, and I will lose a lot of momentum by going Latias. So I decided to stay in. Since I had a little bulk investment, I decided to go for Air Slash, and I actually outspeed the no speed investment Rotom. He goes into Enamorus and was not sure what to do. He reviews Iron Head as I go for Thunder Wave. It was the freest move ever with Rotom Wash gone. And then here, we do a little Togekissing. There's the Flinch, and that's Splash 2 for Togekiss. He goes into Slitherwing here for some reason. I go for Thunder Wave here, obviously. He goes into Porygon 2. The T-Wave connects, which is really huge. I Air Slash 1, that's Flinch 1. Air Slash again, that's Flinch 2. That's actually Paralyzed 2, and that's Splash 3 for Togekiss, which is really surprising. He goes into Alakazam, and then it's time to review my Terra Dark Thunder Wave tech. Unfortunately for me though, he uses Substitute, anticipating the Thunder Wave. He goes for Focus Blast, which misses. That's another benefit of going Terra Dark. Air Slash fades the Substitute, as his second Focus Blast misses. Hits, actually, I mean. At this point, I was fine with letting Togekiss go, as he simply did not have enough moss to pivot through to get his Slitherwing into position. I go into Cleavor. This was the freest Scarf Cleavor U-turn ever. And then now I go into Zamazenta to try and give it a little bit of action, because Zamazenta actually 1v1 Slitherwing in this case. I go for Psychic Fangs, which doesn't KO, unfortunately, but as I live the close combat, I can safely go for the Psychic Fangs KO, and that is game. So here's my post-match thoughts. The early game could have been played a little bit better, as he got a lot of opportunities to switch in between his Slitherwing, Rotom, P2 core, and threaten debilitating status and damage on my team. But in hindsight, I feel like I played that pretty well, considering I wasn't really prepared for Enamorus, P2, and Naclstack. Getting the knockoff on Naclstack was the turning point of that game. I feel like he could have gone for Rotom Wash there and could have just Volt Switched out to gain momentum there on my forced Latias switch. But then, yeah, in the mid game, he did get really unlucky with Togekiss being Togekiss, but yeah. The game could have been a lot closer, but I feel like I played that really well, and GG's to my opponent. He played really well as well. Next week's matchup is going to be really shaky as well, so expect an exciting and exhilarating battle. Until then, I have been Ryan and Ditto, coach of Deranged Ditto.